Hey, let's just roll with it. Eric, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Okay.
Go ahead. Go.
Hi. My name is Eric Gwadz. I play for Washington College men's soccer team, number 26. And yeah.
All right. Eric, you should take over my spot. You got this down pat. Thanks for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. So we're going to do a PSA type of announcement. It's usually a public service announcement, but this is a player's service announcement. One of the aspects of the game and that we were just talking about is that I'd love to keep doing more student athletes to talk about their experience. And so maybe, can we start just how did we connect to do this?
Yeah. Obviously, I've been following along a little bit with not only from the D3 board stuff, but from the YouTube channel and having my Coach Dunchi on. I thought it was dope. And so I just reached out and said, like, thank you basically for, including us in this little journey for the YouTube channel. And I was grateful enough to be offered to do a little interview. And I thought that was a great opportunity to, share my story as a Division III college athlete.
So that's fantastic. Thank you for that. So the PSA here is that for other student athletes that are watching, if you shoot me an email, more than likely you'll be asked to interview. So hopefully more of the folks who do play the game, by all means, email me, and we'll definitely try to line you up for a future interview. So with that, let's kick it off. So, maybe just start talking about how you ended up at Washington College playing for Coach Dunchi.
Sure. So, I started playing soccer when I was very little. My parents tell me stories of when I was like 11 months old kicking a soccer ball around.
Nice.
And so, obviously going through elementary school, that sort of thing, my parents put me into a Stoddard. I live in Washington, D.C., and so we joined Stoddard Soccer's rec league.
Mm-hmm.
And my first team, my mom was the coach for that. And she made a rule that if I scored a goal, I would be taken off the field. So I was not too happy about that ever. I think it was the same rule for my brother as well. But I think it was around first or second grade. I think it might have been second grade when my parents thought it would be better if I tried out for a travel team. So I tried out for the Stoddard Soccer travel team, but they ended up not taking me. Obviously that was, a big setback because it's like, oh, this is like the closest, club team. But at the time, Jonathan Colton, he is like one of the directors for Bethesda Soccer Club on the boys' side. He might even be a head director. I'm not sure right now, but he was my PE teacher and would see me play during physical education class. And one day he gave me his business card and said, hey, come do a tryout. We practice these days. And so I ended up going out to a Bethesda soccer practice and ended up joining Bethesda later. I think it might have been in the spring, something like that. Played with them my whole entire career up to U18. And being at Bethesda has made me the player that I am today in so many ways. Obviously there's some other clubs, like I'll say DCYFC is another club that I spent some time with through my early development. But my coach at the time for my U18, Trevor Singer, he knew the father of Chris Koch, who was the assistant at the time at Washington College, who's now at Stevens. And they basically said, hey, well, at this time, especially I was a holding midfielder. That's what I was recruited as. So they say, hey, we need a midfielder. And then I did a couple day camps. Dunchi and Chris Koch saw me play a little bit. Did a couple visits here and there, and then ended up committing to Washington College. I think, my parents were happy with my decision to come here. It's, in a really good conference. It's a good school. And yeah, nothing too special.
I visited there, I don't know if you know, and did a video of a few months ago, stopped by, and you can't pick a better, it's a great little school, right?
Yeah.
I was really impressed with it. And the coffee was really good when I found it. Hey, let me just ask you, it just totally popped into my head. Like, how big of a deal were those camps for you as a player? Like the ID camps, not only necessarily Washington College, but just to
Hmm.
give you the experience of trying to, hey, I don't know if you looked at other places, but, doing ID camps in general.
Yeah. I mean, they are absolutely everything. Um, I mean, yes, you can have a coach come to your game, but I mean, the likelihood that they're there to watch you is pretty small
Mhm.
unless they know you. And so I know one of the biggest camps that I went to was a Mary Washington camp. And at that camp, it's just, I mean, all the college coaches coach the little teams. And I think it was just a day thing. It might have been like a morning to afternoon sort of thing. But the coach of the team sees you in the training sessions and then in the games. And it could be a coach on the other team or your coach who says, "Hey, we'd like to. Could I get your email or whatever?" And then you then go from that big camp to the school specific camp, and then they can see you play at a smaller level. One of the coaches that like talked to me at first was the Virginia Wesleyan coach.
Mhm.
He saw me play at the Mary Washington camp and said, "Hey, we like you as a player. Would you want to come do a visit?" Because I mean, they're not only recruiting you for your soccer ability, but for who you are as a person as well. Because you will be attending that school and not only playing soccer. We're not professional athletes. And so getting to know the coaches and the players and the school on your visit is something that is also really important. But I think getting out to those camps and getting as much exposure as you can will give you the widest range of schools that you could possibly go to.
I have this thing where I'm starting to think that tournaments, for as much fun as they are as a player, they're kind of relatively useless as a recruiting for a recruit. If you are a player going to a tournament, there's no guarantee that you'll get recruited. And I know all the tournaments will hate me for this, but they advertise, look at all these coaches who are coming, and I always say they just try to find the best games to go watch. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, something I would add to that is, I mean, knowing multiple assistant coaches here, I mean, I've been in the office before and I see the amount of emails that they get.
mhm.
And I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Coaches get emails all the time from a million different players, and if you're not someone that they know, it'll be hard for them to say, "Oh, I'm going to take this 30 minutes that I have at this game to go watch someone I don't know versus someone who I do know."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, when you started, well, when you went your first year at Washington College, what did you have any expectations of going into it? Like, were you thinking you were gonna, set the school on fire, you're gonna, all that stuff, or
I
did
mean,
you
of
sort of
course.
expect, yeah,
No, not really. I mean, I knew that a choice that I made coming to Washington College is that I felt that I would be able to, make an impact coming in as a freshman. And
Mhm.
I mean, I played in every game except for one, I think. I mean, some of those games it might have been 60 minutes or some might have been 15, something like that. I mean, yes, obviously my thought was, oh yeah, I'm gonna come in here and tear it up, but no, I mean that's not really how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, there are players on this team who had more experience than me. And when you come into a conference game against could be anyone like Johns Hopkins, I mean, this is a crazy good program, and I'm this kid right out of high school. I'm not, I'm not going to be able to do anything too crazy.
Um, hey, so let me just ask on the personal side, what's your major?
I'm a biology major.
Wow, interesting. And because I don't know this, are you getting another year to play, and are you going to
Yeah, so for the rules in NCAA, they allow you because of COVID to come back.
COVID?
And
Yeah.
so this past year, we had three kids: Dell Jenkins, James Trine, and Greg Adams. They both took a fifth year, an
Yeah.
extra semester to come back. And obviously we did well. And then because of how my season went, I felt like maybe I could get even more out of it. And
Mhm.
I don't know when's the next time or
Yeah.
whenever I'm going to be able to play at this sort of level again with all these guys that I like so much.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to end up taking another semester to play.
Nice. So, you know what? you got a life ahead of you, man. Like if I could have done it, I'd keep going back to play a fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, as many offers as I had. I had so much fun.
Mhm.
Hey, so I mean, I guess it's early, but do you have any plans for once you do graduate?
Um, I mean, as of right now, not yet. I mean, grad school is a consideration that I
Mhm.
have. It's something that most of the people in my family have done.
Right.
So that's something I'm looking at. But I mean, right now I'm interested in. I like fishing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, coming from DC, where I mean, there isn't really too much fishing
Good luck
in
with
a big
that.
city. You know, I live in Northwest, but out
Yeah.
here in Chestertown, that's something that I found. You know, I have a passion for,
Yeah.
and it's something that I've been looking into jobs and internships now for working with fish.
Oh, nice. Um, and let me ask you, do you after next season, which I'm super excited to watch you play, but do you plan to keep on playing?
Maybe. I mean, so possibly. I don't know yet. You know, that's a long way away. You know, you can't be asking for those, you know, those
Yeah.
future questions.
Yeah. Future questions are rough, I know. Um, all right, so I mean, we mentioned this about talking about whether you're going to take the extra year or not, but um, just from your perspective as a player, how difficult or easy was that COVID year where the season got canceled and then you sort of did this makeshift springy type season?
hmm
Yeah, what was your experience like?
Well, so our that spring, our team went to England, and while we were in England, there started being all of these, you know, oh, there's flight cancellations. You can't come from Europe, but because of how it worked, England wasn't like a part of them, and
Hmm.
so like we were on the bus driving from, you know, it might have been like a training session or wherever we were from, and everyone's got their phone out saying, oh my gosh, school is canceled. Like spring break extended a week, and then 2 weeks, and then oh wait, like flights are being banned from Europe, and we're
Yeah.
like, okay, this isn't very good. You know, fortunately we make it back, and you know they canceled school for that time. I mean, I was at home for a long time, and I mean didn't really have much going on. Played a lot of video games, a lot of Call of Duty. Um, but you know, fortunately, the next year when they said everything was going to be online, I was able to get an apartment off campus with two
Mhm.
teammates, and I think Dunchi mentioned it before.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
joined like an adult league. I mean, it wasn't anything too crazy,
Hmm.
but it was nice that we were able to train almost every day, play games on the weekend, and just, I mean, continue bonding as a team and just play. I think
Yeah.
that's like one of the most important things.
He Coach Dungy actually mentioned that. I remember he said that a bunch of guys had gotten off campus housing and that he thinks that had a big impact on how your fall went just because of how tight you had all grown. Let me ask you, so that you go through that and then you come up to the 20 2021 season in the fall. I mean, what did you have any sort of expectations for what the season was going to look like, or were you just kind of everybody just like, hey, we're back, that's awesome, that's enough?
Um, I mean, I think we did have high expectations, especially the fifth year senior class coming back. They made it known that it was not going to be okay to have an average season, which I mean, perfectly fine by me. Obviously, I mean, my freshman and sophomore year, we didn't do too well. I mean, we might have been around 500, but in the conference, we really struggled.
Mhm.
And that was just something that we did not want to have happen anymore. So, looking at the list of players, and our team was fairly old. We had a lot of juniors and seniors in the lineup. I think two sophomores. But other than that, we had a decently old team that, you know, yeah, I mean, the expectations were made that we were going to go to the Centennial Conference playoffs. I think that was the number one expectation. And even for me, one of my, like, we had personal goals and team goals that we listed out earlier in the season, I think right before we played F&M. And mine was to win the first playoff game, because I knew if we won the first playoff game that maybe we could go on a little run. I mean, I didn't think that we were going to be in the semifinal at first, but I think that there definitely were high expectations for this season.
Yeah. Well, you certainly delivered. I mean, and the way you played too, I thought was awesome. Like, again, just sort of how you guys knocked the ball around, I really liked. But was there a point in the season where your teammates had a sense like something good was going on and something special is happening?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, for some of the games, especially some of the higher ranked teams, like maybe Rowan, well, Montclair, that first Montclair game was really rough. I mean, it was off a day where we played Rutgers Newark and came back from 2-0 down.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they outplayed us in that game. It wasn't even really close. But I think the first couple conference games, so F&M, we beat them 2-0, Muhlenberg, and then Haverford. I think winning those 3 games in a row was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Because F&M is, I mean, obviously an incredible team. I have friends on that team, and I always, joke around with them that, no, they're going to beat us 4-0 this year or something like that. But we got them back this year.
Yeah.
Muhlenberg at their place is always a really tough game. They play extremely well on that field. I don't even know how they do it. The grass is like 10 feet high. And then Haverford is a team that we have always struggled against. I don't know if we've even really taken points off them since Coach Dunshey's been here. Since I've been here, we lost both times. And so to get a win in that game and go 3-0 in the conference, where most of the time, my time here, we would maybe win 1 or 2 games in the conference. And so we're 3-0 right now. We're, okay. We're getting ranked by, United Soccer Coaches. Like, I think we're 24th or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think then we were feeling, okay, sure. But that also comes with, we lose 2 in a row to Ursinus and Hopkins.
Yeah.
And it's like, uh-oh, like what's going on here? But I think losing those 2 games, it was also, I think it was good because it's just like we were on such this high. We were like, oh my gosh, we're unbeatable. We're beating some of the best teams in the conference.
Yeah.
And then we lose to Ursinus and Hopkins, and it's like this is where our season is defined. Like we either bounce back from this or we continue, going down.
Yeah.
And I think that like week of training session was okay. We got this, even though it was kind of like a little bit of a middle of the season, not at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of, we knew that what we needed to do to move on to the Centennial Conference playoffs was to have championship mentality practice every single day.
Yeah. So speaking of that, you go to the conference tournament and you're matched up against F&M, who, you've historically just, right? I mean, they're just such a tough program to play. What Coach Wagner and the team have done there is nothing short of remarkable. Whether whether they play exactly the way I would love, that's a different story. But you know what? Whatever they do, they do extremely well. But so what's your thinking going? You lost to them, right, in the regular season?
No, we beat them.
Oh, you won that one. You won.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So what was your thought going into that game in the conference tournament? Here you are, you finally made it, and F&M is in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of the teams that were left, those were we kind of maybe got a little lucky that was the team that we wanted to play. Obviously, I mean, powerhouse pro. It's so crazy that that's the team who we beat 2-0. I think they had a lot of guys out in that game, that sort of thing. But I mean, hey, that's kind of how it be in soccer. But I mean, it was a big game, especially with how it worked out with the Centennial Conference playoffs, being able that we would host the game, because Hopkins just wins every Division III sport, so they host every event, and they made a ruling that the second place team would host it. So we got lucky with that, and there was a bunch of people there. It was a packed stadium. It was a night game. It was a crazy atmosphere, and I was definitely nervous.
Yeah.
It's just I had never been in a game like that before with that many people watching, and at first there's a lot of nerves and stuff like that, and especially since it's F&M and you never know what's going to happen. We were 2 of their 4 losses all season.
Yeah.
And so they're just a team that does not lose.
Yeah.
And especially that we beat them earlier, they're just coming out for revenge, and now they have all their players back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a game I don't think I contributed too much in that game. I mean, just kind of how the game went.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end, Greg picked up the ball on the right, and I mean, I was just running in the box, and I think it slipped right under their goalie's hands. That's what it looked like from my angle, and all of a sudden, the ball's on my foot right in the goal, and it was like one of the craziest moments of my entire life, just like running over to the stands, and like everybody is just cheering for our team.
Yeah. So, just for folks who don't know, and having been there, right, like you're playing on the turf. There is, for all intents and purposes, it looks more like a football stadium, right? With the bleachers that basically run from, I mean, close to 20 to 20. So it's long and it's tall, but you guys don't have a football team. So if it was packed, that must have been quite the place to be, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and the student section is on this side, and that's where I scored. And so we're all running like right to the student section, basically.
Oh, that must have been awesome. Goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps. Oh my gosh. All right, so you win the conference, right? And then you get the automatic bid to the NCAAs. Now, I mean, what's your thinking there? Are you just sort of like, hey, let's just go game by game here, or?
Well, I think, winning the tournament like for the first time for our team, we were obviously ecstatic, but it's one of those things where we just went we just beat F&M and Gettysburg, two teams that also got into the tournament. We beat Gettysburg 2-0.
On their own right. Yeah.
And so we just beat two incredibly good teams. Like, well, why don't we just go and win the national tournament? Might as well. And that's obviously everybody's attitude. And in our training sessions, we were really focused. And every single time we did a little huddle, it's like, all right, it's basically almost like let's play for another week of practice.
Yeah.
Every single time we win a game or two games, we get another week to practice.
Yeah.
And I had never really heard of St. Lawrence before. That program is crazy in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I sit with one of my roommates, Chris Comer, and we look at all the, all these different teams, and we like looked at St. Lawrence, looked at their, if they had any games online, that sort of thing. And we're just trying to learn as much as we could. I have a couple of friends that play in the Liberty League, and I was like, I was hitting them up. I was like, hey, like, what is this team? How good is Sabanda? Like, is he really all that? And oh my gosh, he's crazy good.
One of my top 30 some odd players was Marvin Sabanda. But.
And so, I think that we thought that we were going to go there and win some games. Obviously, if we didn't, that's just kind of how it be. We still had a win in the Centennial, but that was our hope, was to go there and win some games.
So you dispense with them. You manage to get to New Jersey, and one of my top 5 games is a game you guys played against Montclair, because I thought it was a bit of a tactical masterclass, and definitely two different style teams that were going at each other. You'd been thoroughly beaten before by Montclair. What was the sense going into that game?
Even though we had lost them 3-1, I'm kind of happy that we ended up playing them instead of a team we had never faced. That way we knew most of their big threats. We knew kind of we had a thought about how they would play against us. I think in the first game they might have even played a 3-back. Might have just been because of their personnel. But we, knowing from all the way on our first couple of games, we kind of knew what we were going up against. And we had a game plan to take them on. Obviously, not everything works how you plan it. And obviously it's perfect. You just do 5 passes and score every single time. But yeah, I mean that was a wild game, especially me since I was playing on the left wing. Some of those moments where they're close to goal, you are just hoping the ball does not go into the net. And they're a great team defensively. I was being man marked a lot of the game.
Yeah.
Which I mean is just kind of how it be.
Yeah. But
yeah, I mean that was sometimes very nerve wracking seeing someone like Amir Lukovic or Josiah Crawford just running full speed at your goal.
Yeah, those two are my other favorite guys. Like those two. I mean, I'm seriously, and I don't mean this like how they're not Division I ball players with their speed, their technical ability, their strength. I mean, Amir Lukovic. I'm like, yeah, but so you get to halftime and it's all tied up. I mean, were you guys feeling really good about where you were? I know the first 20-25 minutes I joked with Coach Dunshee that it looked almost like rope-a-dope, where you're like, hey, you guys keep the ball. We're just going to defend and make it really difficult for you, in which he said that was not the game plan. But, 0-0 at half, you got to be feeling good, no?
Yeah, I mean, that first half was rough. I think we were obviously defending a lot, but I mean, something that Coach Shearer, our assistant coach, really drove home with us is knowing how to defend in a high block, low block, and mid block. And even though that isn't the plan, is just to sit back and try to counterattack. I mean, that just ended up how it went. I mean, they had the ball so much, but I don't think we had to do too much running because just our defensive shape, we were able to cover for each other in different ways. And of course, you're gonna have to run a little bit, but going into halftime, securing a close one. I mean, Chris Comer had a crazy save with Anthony Pinto in that moment, and that kind of fired us up. We're like, all right, we're not getting scored on by these guys. But yeah, we go into halftime. We're all sitting there. They have a nice locker room. I think it's like the Red Bulls 2 stadium.
Yeah.
So they, it's nice and warm in there, and we were just talking. We were just like, all right, that was really close, but now it's our time to turn it up. We can't just sit back and play defense the whole game because they're just going to get consistent looks that are going to go in the net. Yeah. And so, going out in the half, did a little talks with my assistant coach here, and he said that if they're going to be man marking you out on the wing, then make runs inside because that it's just like switch up your game a little bit essentially. Yeah. And so one of the first plays of the game, Harrison gets the ball, turns left, and I run in between their center back and outside back, get the ball, and we got a corner. And that was one of those moments where it's like, all right, we just got a corner kick against these guys. Yeah. Like, why don't we just score in the corner? Yeah. And another thing that
I actually remember that play. In the second half, I said you guys were a completely different team. Because and I think it was almost like Montclair was like stunned, like that first play where you guys got close, that corner kick, and you could almost see him like, what just happened here?
Yeah, I think
you could see conversely, you guys were like, yeah, okay, all right, we got this.
Yeah, something that our captain Del Jenkins always would drive home is that we're basically playing for one moment, and that is something that I even felt. Because in the beginning of the season, I wasn't really scoring or assisting. I wasn't really doing too much, and at the end, I was able to pick it up and got some stuff for that. But it was just I knew that, like, having the confidence to know that if I got that one good opportunity, that we could score, and I think that's what we were playing for most of the time. Is let's get that one good chance for someone. Obviously, James Strine, who a very good player, probably one of the best players I've played with in my entire life. I knew that if he got the ball into a good spot, it's likely that he would score a goal. Yeah. Same with Greg. I mean, it's all about confidence, knowing that our attackers are going to get that one good look to score a goal. And I think we just wanted to just take it to them and play for that one moment to get a goal.
So you go ahead with a banger from Greg Adams. I mean, telling Coach Dungy when I spoke to him, like it almost looked like you guys were playing really heads up, and Montclair was just kind of like, you know, almost, fell asleep for that quick moment where the throw in, he gets the ball, he turns his defender into the middle. I guess to your point, what you guys talked about, which is, hey, instead of going out wide, why don't you come back into the middle, because they're stepping out wide and leaving the gap in there, and then hits the friggin' ball. Like I mean, what was that like? What did that do for you guys emotionally?
I was stunned. In that moment, I could not believe that just happened. I mean, I'm standing there on the sideline. I think Ben might have been next to me, and EK throws the ball into Greg. Greg takes a touch and shoots it. And I'm standing from the side angle, and I just watch the ball just go in the net. And the thing is, I didn't even celebrate that hard with Greg, because I just thought to myself, there is no way that we are winning right now against Montclair State in this game.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it for how the whole first half went. Obviously, we picked it up a little bit in the second half, but to get a goal like that type of goal in this game, I thought that, I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I run over a little bit, celebrate. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I told Chris, I think there was like 18 minutes left. And I was like, all right, Chris, get ready. This is going to be a lot of defending.
Yeah.
And
it
was, I think Dungy said it in one of his post-game interviews that the goal matched the moment. And I think that is a perfect way to describe it, that our biggest moment, it's a crazy shot. And I think, he had assisted a lot of my goals at near the end of the regular season. And I mean, I was happy for Greg to absolutely bang one, because he is a crazy good player, and it's always awesome to see when he turns up.
You know what? I'm serious. Like, if there was a sports center for this sort of thing, like that's a sports center like goal, top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at this. I mean, he did everything right. He hesitated for a second for his defender to get behind him, and then when he committed to getting there, he cut it back and then took a touch, I think, or two, and then roped it. And near post, anyhow. So not to dispense with this, but in the 88th minute, you get a ball on a like a defensive header that was kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
You go between two defenders, you go to goal, and you slot a perfect ball on the ground past the Montclair keeper who was coming out, and at that point you had clinched the ticket for the NCAAs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just for you, like, when you received that ball, what was going through your head? Did you think you would be making the run? I mean, hey, it was a little Messi-esque there, like, I mean, because the two defenders were tight. It's not like, you had 10-yard gap between the two. No, they were right there. And I think what surprised me the most is that you actually were able to get through, and that they didn't grab you, stop you, trip you, do something like that. And then you just went off to the races.
Yeah.
Sorry, that sort of goal gets me all giddy, right? Because it's like, it requires skill, intelligence, all that kind of stuff. But
no, I appreciate you saying that. I think some of my friends, might not like your wording of Messi-esque, as they think it might inflate my head to,
oh,
the biggest
what?
ever.
I'm here to embarrass you and to get on your buddies, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think so. The player who kicked the ball, Joe Muchler, he's actually the one. I think he's probably been the biggest influence for the D3 boards on our team. He was one of the ones who discovered it first. I won a National Player of the Week award for our games against Swarthmore and McDaniel, and he was the one who told me. He sent me a link and said, "Hey, you just won this, by the way." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "What the heck?" Right.
Yeah.
And so he was looking at the boards. We would always joke around about how Simple Coach was talking about us and Hopkins 92.
Yeah.
They and during the tournament, they don't believe in us, that sort of thing. And so it was always pretty funny to look back at some of the game notes or just what people were saying about us, because no one would ever talk about us before.
Yeah.
So yeah, he clips the ball in, gets headed down, and I saw both of them pressing me, and I know you're complimenting me a lot, but in all reality, we have this term called a drackle, which is a dribble tackle, where you're dribbling and a defender makes a tackle on you, but because of how the ball bounces around, it still stays with you. And so in that moment, my intention was to hit the ball in between both of them, but I think it went off his knee back into my knee, and then out. And so maybe I got a little lucky, but I mean, obviously I ran past him, and it was a little. I think the video is a little funny because he tries to like slide tackle me from behind and doesn't quite get me. But I mean, once I'm in that position, I mean, it's just put your head down and put it into the corner.
Yeah, I mean, did you once you did that drackle, which was, I mean, don't tell people that. Just be like, yeah, I did that. Like, own it all you can. Did you see the field in front of you to be like, hey, I'm just going to go to goal? Or was there, what was in that moment where, okay, I do have the ball? And interestingly enough, you had basically, that was their middle to right side that had come up to win the ball. And then did you just think, wow, it's an open channel, I might as well just go?
Yeah, there was a play a little bit earlier where Greg laid me off and I went 1-on-1, and I like went back and forth a couple times and I shot it with my left when it went wide. And I was a little disappointed in myself because I knew I should have just tried to take on the defender and get a really good shot. And not that I was, upset with that, but I knew if I got one more opportunity that I was going to go to goal. And once I broke through, I realized that was their center back and their right back.
Yeah.
And I mean,
totally
I rate myself
off balance, right? Like their left side was way over. They're left-handed because he tried to come and get you when you shot the ball, and he was just too far away to get to you. But
yeah, I mean, I think maybe because the play started on the left side, and it's the 80th minute, everybody's tired. It just takes a little bit longer to get across, and I just thought that they have half their defense just went into this tackle.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things where you don't even think about it; you just kind of go.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think that whole time I was not going to pass the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, own it, man. You knew what you were doing. I tell you, just that I know of a lot of guys who, as the keeper's running out, would have just pummeled the ball. Like, I'm going to hit this as hard as I can. And instead, you just sort of nice little technique was awesome. You had the right stance. You knocked the ball and nothing to do. That was fantastic. Like I was here, like what you see here, this is where I watched everything and I did all my game notes. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I was all pumped up, like what a goal, calling, my son's over, check this goal out. Like even Greg's was the same, but I was, because I'm going to full confession, and maybe my notes gave it away, but I didn't think you guys could take on Montclair. I thought Montclair it's just too tough, too big. And even though there's parts of the game where I think they're a really good collection of individual ball players, better than a lot of teams have, even though I don't think they necessarily have the team dynamic down as much, I didn't think you guys had much of a chance. So when you guys scored, it was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then, look, it was a rough way to end the tournament. You lose to Tufts in OT, which must have been a heartbreaker, because I think if I remember, Matty Cano's goal was that cross shot thing.
So something a little funny about that. I've known Mati for a long time. We played on the same high school team together for 3 years, and
oh my gosh,
in between summers and winters, we'd been done training sessions together. We have a lot of mutual friends. And so I could not believe that it was him who was just absolutely, he scored the OT game, like the winner, and he assisted the first goal.
Yeah.
And I just can't, it's so goofy. I never would have thought I would be playing him.
Yeah.
I always thought it was cool because I remember there was it might have been a summer session, and I think they had just won again for the national championship.
Yeah.
And I was like talking to him, and I was like, "Yo, congrats on winning," that sort of thing. I see it on Instagram or whatever, and I'm thinking to myself, how crazy would that be to win a national championship? And all of a sudden, I'm playing him in a game to possibly do that. And I thought that was really cool. I never would have thought I would be in that position.
Yeah.
But
It's amazing how soccer, like, you come full circle at times with people and how you get connected and like yeah, but I mean, it must have been a heartbreaker. But on the other hand, you guys must have been ecstatic. I mean, look, there are teams that would would give anything just to even make the NCAAs, and here you made it to the round of 16 against for all intents and purposes, just by number of titles, I'm not saying soccer-wise, like the second best Division III men's team in the country is Tufts, right? Or Tufts and somebody else. They have four or five national championships. Like, so, I mean, you guys must have been like, and you took them to the wire, right? Like, you must have been feeling really good about yourselves.
Yeah. After Montclair State, we had a week of practice, and it was one of those things where you are happy to be playing Tufts because, okay, we're playing well right now. What if we beat one of the best teams in the whole country? But then you're also like, what if we got Stevens, and then Chris Koch, my old assistant coach, is there? Maybe we get a little matchup with him, but obviously it's Tufts.
Yeah.
So, the whole week you're thinking, wait, what if we upset these guys, this sort of thing. And something really funny is while we were walking to the field at Tufts, one of the fans was like, sometimes the underdog wins. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? Sometimes they do. Obviously, it didn't work out. But I think we were just excited to be able to put ourselves up against the best teams.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to consider ourselves one of the best programs in Division III college soccer, we would have to play the best teams. Otherwise, you're who are you playing, right? And I mean, yeah, it was a rough one, that game. In the first half I didn't really do too much. The sun was in my eyes. I mean, whatever, I can make a million excuses, but it's just, yeah. I mean, in the second half,
yeah.
I mean, after Greg scored the goal,
yeah.
It was, I mean, he was on fire in that tournament. He scored 3 goals in 3 games.
Yeah.
And I think we had them pretty close. I got fouled pretty hard on one of them. Another one, I messed up my dribble that I wish I could get that one back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that overtime goal was
it was tight, I will say. Like, and Tufts is one of those teams that I always watch them, and it's almost like they're that team that has a switch, and when they decide that they're going to score, there's no real stopping them except from themselves. But against you guys, I thought you could just see it was not clear cut and difficult. And I think that's a credit to you guys defensively. I thought you're probably one of the most organized defensive teams out there, and made it. And I mean, the games I watched probably made it more difficult on teams because of that. And I think a large part of your success is especially to your 2 center backs and your two center mids, your 2 holding mids. Those 4, especially against Montclair, I mean, are a different level than a lot of teams can handle. At least that was my thinking. So, with all this going on, did you envision, were you ready for this type of experience when you graduated from high school going into Division III, or was, like, thinking, again, this is all hindsight, right? But everything you've been through, you make it to the Sweet 16, you scored, second goal against Montclair, which, all of those things, like, could you have anticipated in high school what your experience has been so far?
Honestly, not really. I mean, I knew, well, from when I was recruited, I mean, obviously you can like look at records and that sort of thing, and Washington College had done one in 2016, but I mean, coming in, I knew this was a program that I was gonna be able to have. It's a good school with a lot of great guys on the team, and soccer is on the side sort of thing. But I knew that I would be able to play a lot, and that was something that I thought was important. That if I'm going to go to a school, that it's going to be enjoyable for me to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you have hopes that you do well, but I mean, it was kind of like, our season's going to kind of go how it goes, and you move on to the next one. But yeah, I mean, obviously this was a crazy experience that was, I mean, it was just amazing to be a part of.
I think it tells the fact that you're taking the next your next semester to play, right? Like I think that says a lot, right? Like that tells you how good of the experience.
I think one of the reasons why I decided to do that was in the beginning of the season. Maybe it's like we had this this psychology program that we worked with from Dan Abrams, and one of the things he talks about is making a match script before you play. And one of the stipulations for a match script is you put things that you can control. So maybe your speed of play or checking your shoulder, this and that. And something that you can't control is scoring a goal or something like that. And so something that I was focused on was, I'm playing left wing. I'm expected to be scoring goals. And in reality, that's not always the mindset you should have, but it should be, getting yourself into position to score. And then that way you have practice of being in front of the net and then actually scoring. That wasn't really there for me at first. And it was funny because the first goal that I scored in our season was against Catholic, at Catholic. So, I went back to my home and some of my friends and old coaches were there and saw me score a goal, which was dope.
Nice.
And then I was able to, I kind of went on a little bit of a run after that.
That was what, did it end up 4-3?
Yeah.
They ended up making a run towards the end of the game. That's awesome. Hey, let me ask you, for the off season, aside from sort of what you get to do with Washington College in this, what does your off season training look like? I mean, how intense do you do, or do you just sort of do what you do with Washington College and then, I don't want to say throttle back, but almost like, hey, I'm going to concentrate on the academic side of the equation for a while, or what's that look like?
Well, so our season ends, we go on a winter break. Most of that is, relaxing a little bit, but there still is the expectation that you do work over winter break to be ready for the spring. And so we come back, and I think I don't know how many weeks it is before we actually start training. We just had our first week of training last week. So we start playing pickup a lot. We have a grass field that we use all the time to play pickups. So that's a couple times a week. And then we also have off-season lifts that we do. Most of the time those are in the mornings, like 6:30. But then once we start training, it's in the season, like the difference I would say between the fall and spring season is that you're not preparing for any games in the spring. So you can focus more on maybe a couple more individual things. We have just like there's more incentive to go out and do individual training. So you can go do it with a teammate or whatever and just get, like, if you want to practice shooting or practice dribbling, that's something that you can work on heavily in the spring versus in the fall where it's more team related and that sort of thing. So right now we are focusing a little bit on tactics and just refining those because how well we did this season, there's no reason why you can't be better. And especially from me having a little bit of a science background, I mean, science can always be, perfected and maybe not perfected, but can be done better. Any study can be done better. So, I take the same approach into soccer where if we did this well in this press, why not continue practicing it? You didn't perfect it yet.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're focused on, but maybe it is a little less intense in the spring. That could be for many reasons, but also there's no opponent. So it's kind of just like you are practicing, but on Saturday, it's not we're playing F&M or something like that. It's kind of another Saturday, and people have a lot of stuff going on.
there's not that emotional intensity that you have during the season. I remember, Friday nights before a game, like I was not a basket case, but I was pretty intense guy that, people knew to kind of stay away from me because I was really wound tight. But then that's aside the point. So just in general, if you could have given yourself some advice in high school as you're preparing to go into high school, into college soccer, to go to Washington College, what would it be now?
Yeah. I mean, coming from high school to college is definitely a big step. Something that I would tell myself. I'll say something for myself and then for other people. Something for myself is that to not get so down on mistakes, I think, because the level does change, it does increase. And it's if you give away a pass or something, especially because when I was playing midfield, because I moved up from this last season, but when I was playing midfield, your job is to get the ball from the backs to the forwards. And if your pass gets intercepted and then now they're counterattacking you, then you might get down on yourself like, oh my gosh, I could have given up a goal, or maybe I did give up a goal. Yeah. But it's, people even professionals give the ball away all the time. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where you just got to move on from that. That's definitely one thing, because I get in my head a lot. That is one of my, like, no one else can get in my head except for myself. Yeah. That sort of thing. Something that I would recommend that players not focus too much on coming from high school is that on high school or club, you might have been the best player or one of the best players. And now you're going to college teams where everybody was the best player or one of the best players. Yeah. And it's hard for coaches to put everybody on the field because you can only have 11 people. And especially if you're a freshman coming in, you have not experienced a season of college soccer, and there's a junior or a senior in your position that, maybe they are the same skill level as you. And I've seen this from some of the recruits that are coming in. It seems like the players are getting better and better every year, which is great. You want that for your program, for you leaving knowing that good kids are going to come back, or come in, I should say. But it's just not to get too down on playing time, because if someone is a similar skill level as you in your same position, but they have years of experience, it's going to be hard for the coach to justify to put you in instead of them, as they know when the game is running down, it's like the 85th minute. If they think that, like, you can't just go. Maybe you want to slow the game down. And that player that's older has been in this situation multiple times before, knows, like, the right pass or something like that.
Yeah. Very true. Hey, so I got to ask this last question, and then I'll let you get on with your day. Before I forget, do you have practice this week? Do you have?
Yeah, I think we practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe.
What time on Wednesday? Do you know?
You know what? I can find out for you right now.
Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, probably at 4:00 is my guess.
Okay, I can't do it. Well, maybe. No, I can't do that. Jeez.
What's today?
Today's the 11th.
The 11th. We got practice. Oh, we do not have practice on Wednesday. We're doing Tuesday, Thursday, Friday today.
Okay. Oh, well. I'm actually going to be down there for business, not going in DC. So I thought, that'll be, maybe I'll jaunt over and stop. But anyhow.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, funny enough, the day that you came here, well, I didn't know that you were here. And so Joe, the kid who introduced me to the D3 thing, when he found out, he was like, oh yeah, he's filming a Field of Dreams episode. And I was like, how do you know that? He knew.
That's awesome.
But
Tell him I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. Dunshee was gonna, I think he offered for someone to walk you around. I think that would have been me.
Early. I got there at like 7 a.m. and knowing, I just knew you guys wouldn't have wanted to. You guys, I'm like, don't worry about it. I met some soccer players, some female soccer players. They actually helped me find the coffee, and the one girl bought me the coffee at wherever, and And I just ended up walking around and ended up waiting until the bookstore opened, you know.
I mean, you're coming to a college campus on the weekend at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what you were
That was
expecting.
right. Exactly. That was my thought. So he offered, I got the email. I was like, no. It's like, no way. You know how you guys, I mean, I would have made some enemies, and I'm not about that anymore, you know.
Yeah.
So anyhow, because I did comment in the videos. I was like, wow, it's 7:30 in the morning, and it's amazing how quiet this place is.
Yeah.
Was it? It's like nobody's up. Hey, so last question. I'm going to assume now, and it's got to be the entire team, like you guys are really protective about the program now, right? You had this super successful year, and you don't want to go backwards, and you want to keep it going, right? And so you're not just going to. I'm sure Coach Dungy is and your assistant and his assistant are doing that to one degree, but you know, making sure that only the right guys come on board. What would you tell those high school students the soccer players who have been recruited and are in the summer are going to be stepping onto the field with you, you know, in mid-August?
I would say to be the best teammate that you can be. That can go from anywhere from, you know, cleaning up balls to, you know, taking things in and out from the training room or something like that. But if you are the best teammate, even if you aren't playing, that will keep, you know, group morale high. You don't want, well, especially when I was younger here, you can see how sometimes people split off into groups, you know, people who have been playing, people who haven't been playing, and it's kind of like they go up against each other because, you know, the kids who are playing might not have any, you know, thing to say bad because they're like, oh, you know, I'm playing in the game, and the people who aren't playing, they're like, oh, I've been playing well in practice, how come I'm not getting in the game? And it's like you can't make playing time about everything. Obviously, everybody wants to win and everybody wants to be on the field while you're winning. But unfortunately, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But I would say just even if you are on the sideline and cheering, like you need to cheer for your teammates in the game because they will do the same for you.
Yeah.
Something that was awesome this year was having a really loud bench.
Yeah.
That's something that other teams have commented on us having, because in the middle of the game, if you do some really good play and your whole bench is engaged and you know, cheering on for you, that can have an emotional impact for the other team because maybe they aren't so loud. And then you're looking at your bench and they're not saying anything and the other team's bench is absolutely going crazy. That's something that F&M, they're hard to play against because their bench is super rowdy. And that's something that helps them out. And I think that is
very true. Very true.
That's one of the hardest things, is that to cheer on even though you might not play is really hard. But you know, I think it's a big part of the game.
All right, Eric, this was awesome, man. Really do appreciate it. Really appreciate you taking the time, and you know, wish you all the best. Hopefully I could get out there for a game in the fall, and yeah, we could connect again. Really do appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
All right, and we'll see each other again soon. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Bye.